How we doing, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. I am your host, Richie, and it is, by Florida standards, a little cold out here. Enjoying the back room with my man, Mr. Ryan Shedd. He's laughing. He's like, bro, come on. It can't be cold over there. I'm not built for it anymore, bro. I'm really not. Ryan Shedd, upstate New York.
How we doing, everyone? I'm gonna tell you what, right now, Richie, we had a crazy snowstorm, as everybody saw the blizzard from the Buffalo 49ers game that came from Buffalo to Central New York, where I live, and we got nailed pretty good. And for those of you that don't know what snow looks like, just stop over to my house and I'll show you a whole buttload of it.
Yeah, man. My little guy Noah dying to see snow, and he's got Alaskan roots, so he wants to make a trip out there. So definitely for family vacations, a lot of bucket list stuff that he wants to do. I'm happy that I got him to see his first sporting event. We took him to see the Yankees this past season, and he got to see a Juan Soto home run, which was cool. And the meat and potatoes of the show, we're definitely going to be hitting on football. But Shedd, I gotta ask you. I did a solo bit the other day. What are your thoughts on what's going on with Juan Soto right now, Scott Boras, the whole process of eliminating teams? Where do you see this going right now?
I mean, for me, I really find it difficult to believe that he will. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know money talks, but at the same time, your brand talks. I mean, if you're going to try to balance between the Dodgers, the Yankees, and the Mets, he already has a season, with the Yankees and the fan base, which is very difficult to play in New York, as we all know. And the fan base absolutely loves him. It's very hard to get embraced by the fans as a Yankee player, and he has them. Going to the Mets would cause him a lot of grief as far as the New York media, and along with the Yankee fans, and obviously nationwide, worldwide, even to go from the king of New York to the little brother.
Yes.
But then to go to the evil empire. They used to be the Yankees, but the Dodgers are now, man. They're buying everybody, getting everybody. If you can't beat them, join them situation. I don't think Soto's that guy. I think Soto would embrace the challenge and come back to the Yankees. And if he doesn't come back to the Yankees, then Brian Cashman and Steinbrenner have some explaining to do. In my opinion, if the boss was still here, it wouldn't even be a question. He'd already would have signed. There would be no drama. He wouldn't be going anywhere. So let's see if Steinbrenner and Cashman can figure something out here and keep him where he should be.
Yeah, I like the way you put that about the boss, the late boss, because in the 90s, the Yankees got what they wanted. And it wasn't always necessarily how would you say, the Avengers type team, but they always got the man they needed to make the team great. And then later, fast forward into the 2000s when you got Alex Rodriguez, I think that's more when it became kind of an Avenger lineup. Oddly enough, the Yankees won more in the 90s with more role players and some stars, as opposed to an all-star at almost, or a former all-star, former MVPs at damn near every position. You had a Giambi for a while. You had a Teixeira. You had an A-Rod. Just to name a few, not to mention the many big-name pitchers that came in and out of the Bronx during those years. If the boss was alive, not only would we have Juan Soto back already, he'd be aggressively hunting after Pete Alonso, if not for any other reason to stick it to the Mets. So,
for sure.
But, Uncle Stevie, definitely the kind of guy that wants to spend, and sometimes not responsibly, because you saw what happened this past year, Shedd, where you saw a Justin Verlander get paid by the Mets but pitch for the Astros. That was a nightmare. Max Scherzer ended up going over to Texas, joining former Met who didn't really contribute but got a free ring, and Jacob deGrom. And right now it's weird because, the Mets did an outstanding job of getting where they had to go. Former Yankee pitcher Luis Severino recently left the Mets for a big time payday with the Athletics. The Mets pick up Frankie Montes, another former Yankee. Clay Holmes is going to be starting. That in itself just seems crazy to me. And when I look at this Mets rotation this year, I have a lot of faith in Kadai Senga. But after him, these are a lot of 3-4 guys
rotation
that you're going to try to stretch out into a potential 6-man rotation.
It's strange to me that, I mean, Severino was supposed to be our ace for God knows how long, and he was always hurt. When he finally got healthy, he still was never the same pitcher. And then he goes to the Mets. He does okay there. And then, I mean, the A's have always been that team where guys go that, it's just like the Raiders now. Like they just go like the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And they get a little bit of money and finish their career there, and then they're out of the league. But obviously Bean's gone. He passed away. Rest in peace. But they have a different regime there now. I mean, I don't know why you pay him that much money. I mean, he didn't show that much, in my opinion. He just doesn't have like the cut on the fastball or the curveball anymore. I don't know. I mean, good for him though. I mean, Severino, I never hated him. I just thought he never lived up to the expectations of the money we gave him and how much praise he got because of how good he was supposed to be. And he just never became that guy.
And I feel that he was never the same pitcher, even on an emotional level, when his best friend on the team, Masahiro Tanaka, went back to Japan. I feel that right now what Oakland's doing, or Sacramento, I should say, what they're trying to do is show the fan base that they're serious and that they're not afraid to throw some of that money around. But I said it on the show the other morning. What worries me about the Mets more than even the Dodgers is that Juan Soto is an alpha dog, as is Aaron Judge. And similar to Alex Rodriguez coming over, moving to third, even though you could make a logical argument that he may have been at the time the more talented defensive shortstop to our former captain, Derek Jeter.
Yep.
But, that's what you do. Yeah, you have to do what's right for the team. And A-Rod actually did do what's right for the team in that regard. But Soto has to understand that his star won't be as big, so to speak. I mean, there's certain ways to look at it. Because I actually feel that Judge was the guy feeling the big pressure and Soto played rather freely. Judge enjoyed a phenomenal regular season. Sadly, the postseason struggles continued. And I also think Giancarlo Stanton really benefited from the presence of Juan Soto in that lineup. And then you added mid-season, a Jazz Chisholm, who I thought did a great job in, his first week with the team, just making an impact, the stolen base in Fenway, the big home runs in Philly, really asserting himself that he's part of the Yankee team, a lot of questions though. And I think all the pieces are really going to start falling once we find out what Soto does within the next 2 weeks. I would think we're going to have an answer, but I'm going to put this on record. I think he's coming back. I think he's going to be a Yankee, and I think he's going to be incredibly wealthy. And although I don't think Hal Steinbrenner could ever be anything like his dad, I think his late brother was more like his dad, Hank. Yeah. May he rest in peace. But he's going to make sure this gets done because he knows that for this fan base, it would just be that unacceptable. And it would take like the Dodgers to go like something ridiculous, like 780 or something, just really just terrible.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. That you could understand. There are contingency plans out there and some very good players should we lose Soto, but
Bellinger?
No. Bellinger is definitely a guy that with or without Soto, I think would behoove the Yankees to bring over.
I think they got to get him. Yeah. You get Soto and Bellinger. I mean, you need something. I mean, they were just completely outmatched against LA. They just were. I mean, the Mets put up a better fight,
obvious.
honestly.
it was painfully obvious after game one that we let slip away that they were just a more powerful team.
Oh yeah.
And just a team that didn't make the mistakes we made. We had our chances, certainly did. But Jazz probably going to second. Stroman won't be back. See you later, pal.
Oh no.
Yeah, Stroman's definitely not going to be back in the fold. Nestor Cortez seems to have like 9 lives with this Yankee bull club, because he could go either way. But I'm excited to see where this goes. And I'll tell you what, man, if this man does go to the Mets, although it would piss me off, it would piss you off, many Yankee fans, it would add a very real excitement that I don't think this city had probably since he had 3 ball clubs, where each team was identifiable with their one particular star. Like I'm talking about the Mantle and Mays era, but the New York Mets, although I'm not a sympathizer with them at all, I do think it's better for baseball when both New York teams are relevant. I think it's good.
I agree. Totally better for the entire league as a whole. I mean, there was obviously, goes without saying, there's a lot of talk about hopefully having a Subway Series. Obviously the Mets would have to overcome that big hump with LA, but the Mets played well. I mean, they were a scrappy team all year, and then they almost, they did put a better fight the Yankees did against the Dodgers. But
it's just remarkable. It's remarkable how it all worked out, because the Mets were a couple of pitches away from losing to the Brewers.
Oh yeah.
And they took 2 away from the Dodgers. But the most interesting thing about these playoffs that passed, the San Diego Padres actually gave the Dodgers the biggest run for their money in round 1. And, the Padres are another team that's going to be heard from coming in. And they actually let Soto go and got quite a healthy package for him. Former Yankee Michael King definitely fitting into their future plans as a starter. But Clay Holmes as a starter, I just cannot get past the comedy value of that. I personally think that you should leave him in the pen and let him cook in the 7th and 8th, not necessarily close, unless if it's like an occasional, spot close for if Diaz is, overworked or something along those lines, or if, he has an IL stint. But gonna be fun, man. Baseball, February, around the corner, right after my birthday. These guys are reporting. Pitchers and catchers not far away. But we're gonna move it along to college for a second. UGA and Texas at it again. How did this play out? I understand that Georgia did end up winning.
Yeah, it went into overtime. A scrappy game. I mean, if I was a bettor, I would have bet the over. But boy, did that come in the under. Very low scoring game. Texas had the ball first in overtime, kicked the points. And Georgia ended up running it in for a touchdown in overtime and took the game. Rest in peace, Mike Zappi. I'm sorry for your morale.
Well, he's still got hope with the Irish because, similar to our man Idris, who loves LSU and loves the Cuse, Zappi loves the Irish and loves Texas. So, he's still got hope with the Irish for now.
Yeah, I didn't mean Zappi passed away, guys. I just meant his fandom, like his Texas loss. But Texas will still be in the playoff. And obviously, Georgia just solidified their role.
And we're not faking it like they do on Cobra Kai with John Kreese, because they've been faking John Kreese's death since like 1986.
Oh my guys. Man,
do better.
Yeah,
Cobra Kai is freaking good, guys. You got to check that out. The newest season, check it out. Oh my god, I can't wait for the final 5 or 6 episodes. It's gonna be awesome.
I'll say
they have the Karate Kid movie coming out too.
Yeah, after the conclusion of the series. Yep, another
Machio one. Alongside Jackie Chan. That's gonna be interesting.
Just I'll add one more thing about the college football. The ACC game, SMU versus Clemson. If SMU wins, I think that's going to put Miami back in the fold.
Yes.
For the college football playoffs.
Yes.
But if Clemson wins, that might put them in and bump somebody. And SMU, I would still think they should stay, but it'll be weird. Like this whole thing, how it shakes up is going to be interesting. Again, that's why they play the games. You don't know how it's going to shake up, boys. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, and with the expanded playoffs now, we finally get a bigger bracket. It's good. I mean, you see it in MLB with more teams. You see it in the NFL with more teams. When more teams have more to play for, it's a better product, no matter how you cut it.
It's all about the money, baby.
I am happy that the student athletes are starting to make some bread.
Bread.
Because for so many years, these kids could barely feed themselves. Got a lot of stresses in addition to being a student athlete, just all kinds of other things. So I am glad that they aren't getting exploited anymore, so to speak. And it coincides with getting back that phenomenal NCAA football game for your gaming consoles, which I've been told is phenomenal and really jumped above Madden in the football realm. So I'm sure Madden's going to come back strong and try to answer back. But do you have a feel for who's going to walk out of this big dance as the collegiate national champion, just based on what you've seen thus far?
Boy, that's a great question. Honestly, I don't see anybody so far ahead of everybody else that it's not wide open. Like, there's no team that's like, that team's just going to dominate and beat everybody. I mean, Oregon, if I had a pick, if they put a gun to my head, I would say Oregon, just because they're the number one overall ranked and they're going to be number one overall seed. But I mean, honestly, they could lose to, like Notre Dame. They could lose to SMU. They could lose to Clemson, for crying out loud. I don't think they're so far above everybody else that there's no shot.
I believe that Notre Dame's defense could compete with anybody in the nation. However, I do question if the Notre Dame offense will be able to keep pace with a team like an Oregon. Just a genuine concern of mine. And we've seen in past seasons where when Notre Dame got tested against some of the elite in the college ranks, it was a big time outclass. But this particular Notre Dame team, I also think timing plays a key in so many things. When you look at the usual teams that are always in the mix, you have these big graduating classes. So I think that some of the teams that are usually just pencil them in and normally coming out of the SEC, I think that this particular year, Notre Dame matches up better because they're at the peak of their students' careers, whereas some of these other schools had to get younger again. And it's a cycle, and it's a constant job, even in the off season of college football. They talk about the NFL, but the God's honest truth is, I think being a college coach is actually more demanding.
I would agree with you, just because, especially with the transfer portal now, and now you have the NIL where they can pay players to come there and play. So money talks. So if I'm the number one overall recruiting quarterback, let's say I want to go to Syracuse, but Miami's offering me $5 million if I go there. Right?
Isn't it insane? Isn't it insane how these kids could get paid like that? Yeah, it's pretty wild. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because you grew up with the man. Does Brett have any eligibility left if he wants to make a comeback?
He does. He redshirted his first year, so he does have one more year. He mimicked his game of Al Bundy. So for any of you that don't know who Al Bundy is, homeboy's a legend. 4 touchdowns, 1 game, Polk High. The guy can just walk on water. He is the god. We are just like pupils to him. And Brett mimicked his game after that. So,
and the thing with Brett too, being a lefty, and he has the height of a Doug Flutie. There is a rumor, I don't know how true this is, that there still might be a Flutie Flakes box in the kitchen of Mr. One Disco Dan Bandick. I'm not sure.
Disco Dan Bandick? I'm sure. I'm talking years ago, but last time I was there, it was definitely there.
I love it.
So
I absolutely love it. Shouts
the
out,
Flutie Flakes, baby.
yeah, the Flutie Flakes. Just a really great character. Long shot, but that's why I brought up the humor about Brett, because
Well,
that's how ridiculous the long shot was for Mr. Flutie and some other players like him. So pretty awesome, actually.
yeah, and I'll say it again to all the fans out there. When you guys see Bretsky on the show, make sure you comment. Homeboy was a Bills fan, diehard his entire life, and then his like lower 20s, all of a sudden jumps on that bandwagon and bends right over for Mr. Tom Brady. So just let him know that you are aware of his bandwagon abilities.
It's shameful.
It is shameful. I agree.
I mean, I get it. A late friend of ours, definitely,
I know. Yeah. Yep.
yeah, motivational
Maddie.
factor,
Yep.
but nonetheless, I say to myself, man, wouldn't this be weird if they ended up winning? I mean, Brett saw his share of winning. Now, me, I'm in a weird place because I didn't know Brett when I was 9 years old, when the New York Giants defeated the Buffalo Bills in that epic Super Bowl.
Tears were
But
shed.
Brett can't say anything to me because then I could be like, and then I beat your other team.
Oh,
Nice.
dude, you hold, dude. I never thought about that. Yeah, you hold a lot of weight above that man's head. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yes, I do
Well
in that
played, sir.
regard.
Well played. I like that.
Yeah. If Zappy was here, he would be a lot harder on Brett than we are. But one thing I will say is Brett has definitely earned his stripes.
Oh,
Although,
Brett's a good dude.
yeah, absolutely, and he has earned his stripes with his choice of team affiliation. I attended a game in New England, in Miami Gardens, and I lost a bet to Maddie. Rest in peace. We played a series of Madden games, and the deal was that if he won, I had to wear a Patriots jersey this damn game, and if I won, he had to wear a Giants jersey. Unfortunately, he took 2 out of 3, and we're talking like the 15-minute quarters, like marathon type games. So fortunately, the jersey was so busted down that not too many people noticed that it was a Ty Law. Not that I have anything against Ty Law, but
He's a good player.
yeah, no, for sure. I still had my giant wristband on, so I was confusing some folks out there. But a bet's a bet, and I honor them all. But speaking of the Patriots, Bill Belichick, rumors circulating that he is more than interested in the UNC head coaching job. This is interesting. Bill Belichick potentially going to the college ranks.
I think that is all show. I think that is his plea to, or not plea, but like his advertisement where, hey, just so you guys know, I have college teams interested in me, and they're going to throw the house at me to get me to come there to coach. And then, you're going to have all these teams that are awful. Unfortunately, the Giants, I don't think Antonio Pierce is going anywhere with the Raiders. But, he's essentially advertising like, hey, I'm available to coach. And dude, he's too old. I don't think he wants to deal with the transfer portal and NIL and the recruiting. Like, he has to go on the recruiting field. I don't think he wants to do any of that. I think he just wants to coach an NFL team, and the players are going to come to him, and that's it. I really think it's just one of those, like a smoke screen, like just so you guys know I'm here.
I
And
thought
here we
that.
go.
I thought that this morning to a level. If he does return, do you see him getting another chance to be in that GM / head coach role, or do you think it's just strictly sidelines?
Sidelines.
No more GM for Mr. Belichick.
I don't think that is appropriate. I mean, he had the benefit of Robert Kraft letting him do what he wanted because of who he was and how, his record. It obviously proved to be the wrong move for New England in the last few years. And then as soon as Brady left, we saw what happened after, right? Like I think that he's just going to be a head coach and just make those coaching decisions, and that's it. I don't think he's going to take
I thought it was an admirable year one without Brady because he did make the playoffs with Mac.
He did. Yep. Go ahead. Sorry.
But
yep.
The thing is, it just goes to show you how much tougher it is when you got to stay behind and rebuild it. Whereas you're a player, you can bring your boys with you, but it's like anything else. Like when LeBron James switches teams, you're going to get people that want to play with him. It just is what it is. Like Tom Brady, or a Brett Favre did that later in his career. You're going to get people that want to play with you, but it's just the nature of the beast. Bill Belichick, to me, doesn't get enough credit for that Patriot dynasty for the simple fact that he provided Tom Brady with more top 5 to top 10 defenses than any other quarterback in the history of the NFL.
Correct.
And while Brady is great, and I will never deny his greatness, I do think in that metric, it's a little jacked up that they're like, oh, well, once Brady left, da-da-da. I'm like, guys, I understand it wasn't all roses in Cleveland, but prior to Kevin Stefanski breaking the Cleveland Browns playoff drought, their previous playoff win was from Bill Belichick against his mentor, Bill Parcells, oddly enough, against the Patriots. Long time ago. But, yeah, Bill, there's definitely some teams that got to be interested. I mean, I got to think Jerry is going to consider it. Mark Davis of the Raiders, even though I hope Pierce doesn't get canned, you got to at least entertain it.
You can't can Pierce after 1 year.
It would be wrong, but they are the Raiders.
There is, yeah, and I don't think that Belichick wants to play or coach for the Cowboys. I don't think he wants anything to do with Jerry Jones.
It would be
I think he's too proud.
It would be a weird dynamic. Oddly enough, I could potentially see a scenario if the Giants were to clean house Shane and Dable, which I don't think they're going to do, whether I agree or not. I'm not going to debate that tonight. But I would love to see something where you would get a Belichick in some kind of advisory role where Mike Vrabel took the sideline, because I think Mike Vrabel is still a premier coach who's got a different role with the Cleveland Browns. But then again, if they fire Stefanski, maybe he stays in Cleveland. There's a lot that's going to be shooken up here. And we're going to start it up talking about those Raiders. 2-10, tanking for Shador possibly at Tampa. A rematch of possibly the worst Super Bowl ever. The Bucs can jump into first place in the NFC South with a win and a Falcons loss. The Raiders, as I already stated, they can get their quarterback of the future, get closer to acquiring the quarterback of the future. Raiders did show some guts last week competing with the Chiefs. And I'll be honest, man, the Chiefs only have one loss, but they have not been impressive all season long.
Correct.
Raiders are down way too many people, though. Tampa has a lot to play for here. They got swept by Atlanta, and despite that, could jump them this week. Bucky Irving has really been stepping it up. I think Baker Mayfield has really resurrected his career after just going through the ringer with being thrown away by Cleveland, and I know they regret getting rid of him now, seeing the disaster that is Deshaun Watson. Give me the Buccaneers here. I'm going to go a little high scoring here. Give me the Buccaneers 31 and give me the Raiders 20. I think the Raiders are actually going to fight here, but they don't have enough. They just don't have enough to compete 4 quarters with Tampa, especially with Tampa getting this second lease on playoff life.
Yeah, I like your pick. I like Tampa as well. Mike Evans is still one of the probably top 5-6 wide receivers in the NFL. Baker Mayfield's playing lights out. We always debate on the show, like, you're gonna get good Baker this week or bad Baker this week.
Yeah.
Within reason. I mean, he's been good Baker 90% of the time this year. He's
come a long way.
You know what? He's got that attitude. He's got that freaking that dog in him. Like, he is so aggressive and plays with everything he's got and doesn't look back. I mean, that says something. I mean, you got guys like, I mean, let's just go to Aaron Rodgers real fast. It doesn't even look like he gives a crap. You know what I mean? Like, he just he's playing the game to play the game, and that's it. Like, Baker Mayfield gives everything he's got on the field and leaves it there. I mean, there's something to be said for someone like that. You know what I mean? And his teammates feed off that. Like Bucky Irving, what you said earlier, man, he came out of nowhere, man. And he is tearing it up, man. Rachaad White was a starter.
Yeah.
Bucky Irving's taking that over. I mean, he's a little banged up, but man,
nobody thinks about Rachaad White anymore.
No, dude, Bucky Irving has been absolutely fantastic. And just to touch really quick on the Raiders, Brock Bowers is about to break the all-time tight end rookie record for receptions in a season. He's only 2 to tie for Sam Laporta and 3 to overtake that. I'm sure he's gonna get over 3 receptions in this game because they have no one else to throw to. I mean, Jacoby Myers is no slouch. I'll say that, but I like Tampa Bay to win this, 29-10. I don't see the Raiders doing much. The running game is non-existent. They're the worst running team in the league. Period.
Yeah, they lost Josh Jacobs and really did not have a proper contingency plan.
Nope. They are awful at running the ball. I mean, they're 32nd in the league.
I mean, as horrid as my team is, at least we drafted a good running back.
He was a wide receiver, but yeah, you can take credit for that.
Yeah, well, there ain't much to take credit for. I'll keep that for now. We're going to Arizona. Seattle Seahawks at 7-5, taking on the Cardinals at 6-6. What a wacky division this NFC West has been all year. And even with all the debauchery of injuries that's happened to your team, who we're going to cover next, they're even in it still. The first game was a game, in my opinion, I think Arizona should have won.
Correct.
I think this time they do take care of that. And I don't think this game is going to be as close as many project. I don't believe that Kenneth Walker or Charbonnet are going to be able to take advantage and have the kind of dual games that they had last year. Because I do think that even as a duo, they were better last year. I think Geno Smith is on very much borrowed time, and I think the 7-5 record of the Seahawks is a bit of a facade. I do like what first-year head coach has done there. You know, Pete Carroll was a staple there for so many years. But I like what Gannon's doing more with Arizona. I think Trey McBride is one of the true ascending tight ends in this league. You just talked about Bowers. You know, McBride is another one.
Yep.
Marvin Harrison Jr. still learning it, still getting it. He's gradually growing into what's going to be a perennial Pro Bowler once he hits his peak. I think you're going to see a lot of James Conner here. And I think Arizona is going to wear them out. And I think Kyler Murray outplays Geno Smith by quite a good margin. Give me Arizona 27. Give me the Seahawks 17, Arizona by 10. Geno Smith 2 picks.
Ooh, okay. So one of the hidden gems for the Seattle Seahawks this year has been JSN, Jathan Smith-Njigba. He has been a very small, like a low key, like who's this guy? Like no one ever talks about him. Well, dude, he's putting up numbers. I would argue he is better, or they're number one over DK Metcalf.
Similar to what we're seeing in Miami with Waddle and Hill. It's happening.
Yeah, JSN is just, dude, he's good. He's getting a lot of separation where Metcalf is, he's always got the number one corner on him, but Metcalf's like 6'4". I mean, he's a big dude, and he drops a lot of passes. He's been banged up too, to be fair. But also, Kenneth Walker's out this game, so Charbonnet's the starter, and he doesn't have that. He's not Sonic and Knuckles. Like he's Sonic. Yeah. He's not Knuckles. So they're gonna do. So all he's gonna be able to do is catch the balls out of the backfield, which is a good thing for your PPR fantasy leagues. But he doesn't have that threat to run the ball as hard as Walker. So I think that does affect how Arizona's going to play them on defense. So I do expect Arizona on offense, to your point, run the ball out with Conner because the Seahawks have a very weak run defense, and Conner should eat. And I do expect a big day from Trey McBride, and I do like Arizona to win this. I'm going to say Arizona 31, Seattle 27. I do think it's going to be close though.
And I do want to drop this in before we move along to the next game. Trey Benson gradually getting a little bit more snap share.
Arizona, yeah.
When we had William Floyd on the show, he was still attending FSU at the time. Trey Benson's going to be a good back in this league, and I think he's learning from a pro's pro in James Conner. So I think that's something to look forward to if you're a Cardinals fan, because, unless if you have a McCaffrey, unless if you have a Josh Jacobs or a Saquon Barkley or maybe a Henry, a handful of guys, the committee approach works for the most part. I'm just happy to see James Conner healthy this year. But Trey Benson definitely on his way to being a good player in his own right. The Chicago Bears traveling to Santa Clara to take on your 49ers, 5-7, hosting 4-8. I was actually quite surprised how many publications think that despite all the injuries, the 49ers are going to fight and find a way. It is very unfortunate to see what happened to the great Christian McCaffrey in Buffalo. That was just a tough thing to watch. I took a long gasp when I saw that, and, it benefited my fantasy team, but that sucks. I don't ever want to see one of the game's greats get hurt like that. It sucks. I wish him a speedy recovery. But one thing about this Niners team, and you've been saying it for weeks now, they're tired. You keep saying it. They're tired. They've been through a lot. I do question if they're questioning themselves about giving Ayuk the big contract. But I think this is the kind of thing that next year they could turn it around because you still have a very talented roster and you're going to be finishing a lot lower than what you're used to finishing at, which actually helps you in terms of draft value. As the game goes, I do think the 49ers are going to hang around because of the fact that the Bears really do have issues putting people away. And their record suggests that because the Bears lose a lot of close games. Give me the Bears, however, in a close one. I'm going to go Chicago 23, San Francisco 17, and I got this one ending in OT.
Interesting. No Bosa, no Trent Williams, no Ayuk, no. I mean, I don't have to say all the names.
It's like all of them are Pro Bowl caliber level guys.
Well, and some of them are first team All Pro, meaning the best at their position, like a Trent Williams, or
absolutely.
McCaffrey. Fred Warner's been playing with a fractured ankle since week 5.
Tough guy.
I know the Niners are favored, and I honestly I don't care if they're home. I don't understand why. I like Chicago to win. I do. The Niners just don't have it. I've alluded to it all year, or not alluded to it. No, I've said it. Like even in our NFC West preview, I still thought they would make the playoffs, honestly. But I would say you can't predict the injuries, the amount they've had. I mean, at the time, obviously Christian McCaffrey was supposed to play week 1, and they lost him for 8 games. And then, they lost Ayuk and the whole thing and whatever. But Chicago has a lot of talent. The 49ers have a lot of talent, but they're all hurt. There isn't much to say. I mean, the Niners have the worst defense against scrambling quarterbacks. And they also have the worst special teams. Yes, 32nd in the league, folks.
That's hard to believe.
On special teams. That's how bad the 49ers are on special teams.
That is hard to believe.
And they're 5-7. So, I mean, there's just a lot going wrong with the team. I mean, this happened at the last time they lost Super Bowl, if everybody remembers, when they lost to the Chiefs in 19. And the 2020 season was an absolute wash. They lost Jimmy Garoppolo week 3, and they lost. Yeah. They're all injured. It didn't matter. So their season was over. So this is essentially that same Super Bowl hangover injury thing that happens with them. I'll take Chicago to win this, 31-24.
I think the reason why I have it close is because when I think about some of these rookies, okay, Drake May, Bo Nix stand out because I think Jaden Daniels has some nice toys. But those two guys have less to work with, in my opinion, than what Caleb Williams does. And I think they're outshining him. And, Idris said it here on the show prior to the draft. Mike Zappi, Brett, not a big Caleb Williams guy either. The talent is there, no question. He has a very talented receiving room. Recently the coaching change. They should have beat Detroit, but that's the reason. You lose a game like that against an NFL powerhouse. I'm not going to put it all on a rookie. One thing that I do like about him as a rookie is that I think he really does make a concerted effort to try to hold people accountable. But sometimes you get veterans that sometimes come in to make their paychecks, and sometimes they are just not all the way in on perfecting their craft at that point. And when you get a young guy that has a big mouth, and not always a bad thing, a guy that wants to be heard, veterans aren't always going to rally around that. So I think Chicago, to a level, has a mixed culture. Like, you got some guys that are buying, you got some guys that aren't. And the other part is they're just not a complete team. If the 49ers were just a little healthier, I would pick the Niners. But the one thing that I will give your team is that they fight, and that won't stop.
Well, George
they ran
Kittle's
into a buzzsaw. They
never
ran
going
into
to
a
throw in the
buzzsaw
towel.
in prime time against Buffalo. But the Bears are not a buzzsaw, and I think that's why the Niners keep it close enough to be competitive. But yeah, Chicago ends their losing streak here. But the good news for you,
I
you
agree.
guys are gonna gain in terms of draft position, because similar to the Dallas Cowboys, who have a very talented roster, it's not common that you're expecting to see the 49ers and the Cowboys drafting so high. So, it's welcome when you can get talented guys on rookie deals.
Yeah, it's going to hit the reset button, to be honest. The season's over. I mean, if you're, on the team of the Niners, the season's not over because they can still win the NFC West. But even if you do, you're not going to get past the first round. I mean, whatever. You can't give up. I get it.
Yeah, you never give up, but no, I get it. Keeping it in the NFC West interconference battle, SoFi Stadium, 10-2 Bills traveling to the Rams at 6-6. And, the Rams have a big interest in to see what happens with the Cardinals and the Seahawks. This is a Rams team that I think is a very good 6-6 team, but they've had the misfortune of running into teams that sometimes are playing their best ball when they play them. When they played Green Bay was really clicking on all cylinders. The Eagles, close game, but then Saquon Barkley just went berserk. And then they were nursing injuries between Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp at different junctures of the year. This particular game, I feel, has like the vibe of a game that can be high scoring. In Buffalo, it could still be high scoring, but over here, no weather elements, I could see both quarterbacks really shining here. You got an awesome wide receiver duo. Kyren Williams out of Notre Dame at any moment can bust one. And I love what Buffalo has with James Cook, because everybody talks about Steph Diggs and Josh Allen's relationship being fractured, and he ended up going to Houston and da-da-da. But I think what makes Buffalo better this year than in previous years is that James Cook has arrived on a level where you could take a little bit off of Josh now and you could lean on teams. And James Cook has been able to consistently do that. But I think this is a game where Josh Allen really has a party. But I think Matthew Stafford's up to the task to challenge him. Give me Buffalo in a high-scoring affair. I'm going 34-30 in favor of the Buffalo Bills as they continue to chase the Chiefs for the conference's best record, and the Steelers are still in the mix for that as well.
Traveling from west to east or east to west is always tough. It's also the Sunday football game, but it's different when east goes to west or west goes east. When west goes to east, it's a 3-hour backwards difference where
yes, sir.
So, but when east goes to west, it's not as bad.
A little more advantageous.
So it's and they're going to be playing at SoFi where the weather's going to be good. To your point, you already said, and Buffalo looks pretty freaking good, man. Beating the Niners in the snow doesn't mean anything to me. I mean, they were going to lose that game. It wouldn't have mattered if it was 80 degrees and sunny. You know what I mean?
You know who it still matters to? Chris Berman.
Bills Niners Super
Yeah,
Bowl.
he's always wanted that.
Yeah, and I agree. That could have been the situation if the Bills played their part last year or a couple other years. Anyway, yeah, I mean the Puka Nacua Cooper Kupp duo, is nice, but the Bills' weakest thing on their entire team is the run defense. And believe it or not, Christian McCaffrey, before he got hurt, was running all over him.
Yes, he
And,
was.
and so was Jordan Mason.
He
And
was
then,
my opponent in fantasy. I was well aware of what he was doing.
yeah, and Jordan Mason has also gone for the year too. So now you have your third string running back in the Niners. Anyways, we're talking about the Rams. I think Kyron Williams is going to be the key to not only running the ball and scoring points and making the Rams offense go, but also keeping Josh Allen and that offense off the field. So I think that's Sean McVay's plan. They're going to run early and often with Kyron Williams, and then mix up a couple of passes to Nakua and Cup, but it's not going to be enough. I mean, the Bills have a lot of grit right now, and as we all know, they haven't won a Super Bowl ever, and they seem like they're a team of destiny right now. I'd like to see them in the Super Bowl against the Lions. Give me the Buffalo Bills to win this one, 35-27.
All right. So we both have it relatively in the high scoring realm, one score realm. So you are a believer in the fact that the Rams at minimum are going to punch back even in a losing effort.
Yep.
All right. Sunday Night Football. This is going to be an interesting game. The Chargers, it looks like Ladd McConkey might be a game time decision. J.K. Dobbins is hurt. Gus Edwards, in the fold to be the lead man. Kansas City Chiefs getting healthier. Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt both offering the services. DeAndre Hopkins still getting acclimated with this offense. But, this is the time where the Chiefs, historically in the Mahomes era, start playing their best football. I love what Jim Harbaugh has been able to do with the Chargers in a short while. They're going to be coming into a lot of cap space next year where they can really give Justin Herbert some toys. And I think one of those toys is actually playing in Cincinnati and T. Higgins. We'll see if that comes to fruition. But for the first time in a very long time, the Chargers have a defense that makes you a little intimidated to go over the middle, a little intimidated to want to get those hard yards. Whereas for so many years in the LaDainian Tomlinson era or in other eras of this franchise, they were more like finesse or even old school shit like Air Coryell and all that. But, the Chiefs, it's weird. They are negative in turnover differential this year. Their great defense isn't performing at a great level in terms of fantasy value, but aesthetically and all that other shit. But in terms of getting the job done in crucial moments, they still get it done. Steve Spagnuolo is still a genius of a defensive coordinator.
Yes, he is.
And even though Patrick Mahomes is having a below his standard kind of year, they keep finding ways to win. For all the reasons suggested, I'm taking the Chiefs. But I do think, and I want to reiterate this, similar to why I want to reiterate what happened just a few days ago with the Lions beating the Packers. One of the toughest things to do in this league is to beat a team 3 times in the same season. Just remember I said that on this day, and let's refer to it should these two teams or should those two teams play for a third time, which is both very feasible. Give me the Chiefs 24. Give me the Chargers 20. I think the critical turning point in this game, 2 of them. Justin Herbert, strip sack late. Justin Herbert interception in the second quarter that's going to come back to bite. I actually think the Chiefs win the turnover battle in this one. And I think the Chiefs just play a more complete game. I think sometimes the Chiefs need to see somebody good to kind of wake up again, and the playoffs are on the horizon. I still don't think they're going to three-peat. I still think people are beefing them better than they are. But I have the utmost respect for their coaching, and that's one of the biggest reasons they won last year's Super Bowl, because the more talented team did not win last year.
Jim Harbaugh has done an amazing job of turning that franchise around.
Absolutely.
In 1 year. Now, you normally get a coach in, they're the 2-14 team from the previous year. It's a rebuild. Harbaugh came in there and look at them. They're 8-4, and they got a couple of no-name wide receivers and some nonchalant, um, injury-prone running back to J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards,
And Dobbins
and
was really balling out. It's unfortunate.
big time. And their defense was like their weakest link last year, and their defense is a strong suit this year.
I mean, dude, you got some bosses when they're healthy. You got Bosa's little bro. You got
Joey. Yeah, Joey's older, but yeah, no, dude, but he's healthy, and dude, they're just good. Like they're, I think that the culture changed a ton when Harbaugh got there. That coaching does matter, and that's exactly why. Like these guys are playing so much harder than they did the previous year. There wasn't a ton of turnover, besides like losing Keenan Allen, and you know, who's the running back they got rid of?
Austin Eckler.
Eckler, yeah, Eckler left. They lost all these
Mike
weapons.
Williams is gone. Hunter Henry left a couple of years ago.
What's his name? The tight end's gone too, but and he's somewhere else. But
you talking about Hunter Henry?
No, the other guy, the bigger guy.
Okay.
I can't think of his name. I'm sorry. I apologize for not knowing.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
But my point is, they were like a nonchalant team last year, and Harbaugh has completely changed that culture. And to that point, that the Chiefs have, as we all know, barely winning and getting a lot of favoritism all season.
Yeah, the officials do drive us crazy with them, and it's part of being a champion. You do get the calls. The Patriots were beneficiaries of that for a long time.
I know, and we could all be considered haters, right? Like, oh, just because we're not Chiefs fans, why we're against them or whatever. But no, I mean, the proof's in the pudding. I mean, but anyway, long story short here, I like the Chargers actually to go into Arrowhead and win.
Oh, right.
I actually the same score. I
even if McConkey doesn't lace them up.
Yep.
All right.
Absolutely, dude. With Palmer and Quentin
Johnson.
Yep. I will. That's fine. And Gus Edwards isn't a slouch, man. When he's healthy, he's pretty good. I like the Chargers to win 24-20.
I hope you're right. I do, because I don't have a dog in this fight or anything, but I am a big fan of Justin Herbert. I think he's one of the most underappreciated quarterbacks in this league. He did win Rookie of the Year in part because of the fact that Joe Burrow unfortunately got hurt that year. But Justin Herbert, one of the few things I disagree with Idris on when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks, I just think Justin Herbert has needed help, and I think he's finally getting help, not just from a roster value, but from the coaching value. And Jim Harbaugh brings that by hiring the right guys to really teach the fundamentals and the nuances of the game. And that's why the Chargers are fundamentally sound. And that's why even when they lose, they are always in every game. And that is a dangerous thing, because they're not that typical finesse West Coast team. Like they could go into a cold environment, as you're suggesting, and win. It's possible. And this could be one of those deals where a wild card knocks out a potential three-peat. That would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with Harbaugh, right? Like he brings in his guys, right? He's not going to be like, oh, well, this guy, he might be better than player A, might be better than player B, like on paper. Well, Harbaugh would rather take player B if he fits in his culture.
Absolutely.
And that's what he does.
And that's when you make the tough decisions. That's why popular players like Mike Williams and Austin Eckler are no longer in that locker room. Or
Mike Williams was one other one I forgot. Yeah, but that's exactly right though. Like Harbaugh will bring in. He doesn't care if this guy's better than him on paper. He'll bring in the other guy that's not as good at him on paper, and he'll fit in his scheme and make that locker room better, the team better, and his game plan better. Like that's what he does, and he's so good at it.
Yeah, guest of the show, Idris's cousin, wide receiver coach for Philly, Aaron Moorhead, did describe just how detailed the Harbaugh brothers are, as we kind of discussed his coaching journey.
Yep.
So, as fans and as someone in his profession, all the boxes check, and it is all factual what the Harbaugh brothers have brought. And that was cool seeing those guys go head-to-head last week as well. Wrapping it up, Monday Night Football.
the Bengals at 4-8, the greatest 4-8 team in the history of the league,
we
taking on the
say it
Dallas
every week.
Cowboys at 5-7. Dude, Joe Burrow is the league MVP, or at least a candidate, if this team just played a little defense once in a while. As the Cowboys go, oddly enough, they are not dead in the NFC because of so much parity in the league. You know, it's hard to believe that this Dallas Cowboys team actually did beat the Steelers earlier in the year. They didn't get their first home victory until Thanksgiving against my team. Cowboys are going to be walking into an offseason of much decisions that need to come. It was a weird situation to be in. You know, they did pay Dak, they did pay CD. I still don't know exactly how they're going to pay Micah, but they're going to try to figure out a way. But this Dallas team, until Jerry sells it, is not going to get where they're going, in my genuine opinion. As the Bengals go, I think they're going to lose T. Higgins in the offseason. Can't pay everybody. I think Joe Burrow is just really that dude. He has impressed me so much this year, and I have him in fantasy. Guy's just incredible. Truly, truly incredible. As the game goes, one thing I will say, Dallas has been playing hard lately. They showed some moxie beating the Commanders. They didn't play their best game against the Giants, but nobody has to play their best game against the Giants. They did enough to win. The defense is going to play. The defense is going to show up. I think that they will give Joe Burrow some resistance, but ultimately, a great offense will beat a good defense, and a below-average offense will not be able to take full advantage of a bad defense. Give me the Bengals 30. Give me the Cowboys 24.
Yeah. One really positive thing I'll say about Dallas is DeMarion Overshown.
Yes.
I didn't even know that dude's name until I started watching a couple of the games. That dude is a baller, man. He didn't play last year because he came out of college with a torn ACL. Man, he is extremely good. Dallas had a great pick with him, and he is going to be a force with Micah when they're both healthy. And you add Lawrence into that picture, that defense is going to be completely different next year if they're all there.
And they're going to, and once again, they're going to be drafting in a decent spot.
They are.
You know, and similar to your 49ers, you know, two teams that you're used to seeing, you know, doing more.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I mean, I just wanted to throw a little caveat in there, but I agree with you. I mean, Cincinnati's just too good. I know they're 4-8, as we've said all season. They're the best 4-8 team ever in the history of the NFL. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, you know, even Chase Brown's playing well out of the backfield, and Joe Burrow's no slouch, obviously. Macaulay Culkin. I'll take Cincinnati to win this one, 35-27.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Cooper Rush is not a bad backup quarterback.
He's not,
and he's proven himself in sample sizes when he had to take over. Very much a system quarterback, and his style of play works for Dallas. Just a hot take before I get out of here. I think the Washington Commanders are going to screw this up and miss the playoffs.
Really?
I just got that vibe. I don't like the way they've been playing lately. I'll be honest with you. My team's terrible. I didn't like the way they played against.
Go ahead.
I didn't like the way they played against my team. I didn't like the way that they allowed the Cowboys to hang around and beat them. And truthfully, if you look at their schedule, how important was that lucky Hail Mary?
Oh God, that's
I'm not going to. I
think
think the world of Jaden Daniels. I think Dan Quinn's doing a great job as a new head coach, and I think the culture has more than changed there. But the bottom line is, they have benefited from playing a fourth place schedule. And I got one other hot take. The Miami Dolphins are going to have an opportunity to make the playoffs going into the final week of the season. I'm not saying they're going to get in, but they're going to have an opportunity.
They may, but here's my thing with your take with the Commanders. I mean, who you got out? Because there's only one coming out of the West, for one. There's three coming out of the North. All right, you're only gonna have one coming out of the South, and that leaves two spots. So you're gonna have the NFC East champion, which is Philly,
Yes,
and
sir.
and then the Commanders. I mean, who record-wise even would be able to overtake the Commanders?
I
mean,
would
you can-
say that the
Go ahead.
best chance is if Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons get their collective heads out of their asses. That would be the team that could potentially sneak it.
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, they got Minnesota this week, and I don't think they're coming out of there with a dub. I mean, they're on a 3-game losing streak, and Cousins has
Kirk
not looked
Cousins is
good.
such a weird dude to figure because that could be the kind of game because it's a homecoming of sorts where he could light it up. But they definitely need a spark because I said it on part 1 of this preview show. The Atlanta Falcons just look like a team that just doesn't know who they are.
Yeah, well, they need to run the ball a lot more than they do. I'll tell you that. I know they have Kirk, and that was the
we've been
thing.
screaming this since they blew the Super Bowl to New England.
Yeah, that was my head coach's fault. That game was
I tend
over.
to agree.
That game was
He's a
over.
great coach until you put him in a Super Bowl.
Agreed. That game, the offensive coordinator just run the ball, run the clock out. Brady can't come back, and then you have the Chiefs game in 19 where they're up 10 points with 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and they're passing, 3 and out. Like, why aren't you running the ball, run the clock out, blah, blah, blah. And this last Super Bowl, same thing. Like, why? What are you doing? You're the best team, most talented roster on the field, and yet you're pass. The best player on the field was Christian McCaffrey. Why are you not using him? Anyway.
You know what's wild, dude? Prior
Doesn't
to
matter.
Andy Reid having the blessing of having Patrick Mahomes, his career trajectory looked similar to a Kyle Shanahan where, hey, we love him. He's one of the best football men. But he was getting a lot more Marty Schottenheimer comparisons than Bill Belichick. But it's amazing, I guess, to your point, what having a great quarterback could do. Great show, Shed, as always. Great job. I'm actually going to be missing a decent chunk of the games today because I'm actually going to be working today tomorrow because I got Noah's birthday on the weekend. But announcements to come for our next show. Going to be hitting heavy in the near future on an NBA show. We also want to do another movie show, gangster related. We're going to be dropping some ideas on that. And with college football heating up, just so much to talk about. And also I had mentioned to Brett off air that I want to do a hypotheticals, kind of like a round robin tournament of some of the greatest NBA teams and match them up against each other from different eras until we come up with an ultimate winner. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
I'm going to go get the papers.
Until next time, he is Shed, and I am Richie. Have a great night, everyone, and enjoy your football Sunday. We out.